Hey there, folks. I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and finally I've got a slowdown and a bit of a return to normalcy. Well, at least for now. And this, it's Billboard BREAKDOwn. I don't remember. You know, normally post-album bombs, the charts are a total mess to wade through. I'm not going to say this week is great or anything, even if it might be mercifully shorter, but it's one of those fascinating cases where Travis Scott just lingered, and we're in the middle of the summer doldrums, so nothing much came around to challenge him. There's definitely more tumult that's probably coming, though, and for once, it's probably going to hit the top 10, because while for another week, Last Night by Morgan Wallen held the number 1, this is kind of nearing the end of the road. Yeah, streaming is still good, but the radio is starting to dump this song, and I don't see any sales margin maintaining any of the success here. Now, this opens up the competition I have been talking about for weeks now, starting off with Fast Car by Luke Combs at number 2. It's up in all channels. If there's a time for it to make a proper move, maybe with a discount, it's gonna be next week, and what it'll come down to is either that Oliver Anthony song coming up from out of nowhere, we'll get to that next week, or Cruel Summer by Taylor Swift at number 3, which is also up in all channels, and it's probably going to come down to the margins, especially as Fast Car is edging it out right now, but it's got a little bit less momentum. What really isn't in the conversation is Calm Down by Rima and Selena Gomez, currently at number 4. Definitely has peaked on the radio, but it's got so much stability and inertia that any descent is going to be a lot slower, especially with whatever little streaming it has. It was also enough to hold over Fuck You Mean by Gunna at number 5, where it actually finally has a little bit of radio, but it's still predominantly here on streaming, and it's having more longevity than I frankly expected. Next, we got Vampire by Olivia Rodrigo at number 6. When the radio has thrown so much behind it, it can kind of skate around how streaming is still a lot softer than you would otherwise expect. And on that note, we got Dance the Night by Dua Lipa at number 7, where the radio growth is pretty strong, but also a bit slower, and it actually has a slight edge on streaming. Then holding quite steady, we got Barbie World by Nicki Minaj, Ice Spice, and Aqua at number 8. The streaming is still remarkably stable for this one, especially given that radio is slowly sliding in behind it. And on that frustrating note, Flowers by Miley Cyrus is back in the top 10 at number 9, where it might be bleeding radio, but it's got so much inertia in that channel that it hasn't fallen much at all. Finally, we actually have a new entry in the top 10, and one I personally did not see coming, Snooze by SZA. I might chalk this one up more to positional losses for Travis Scott rather than this on its own strength, as the radio run seems about done, but it has enough in other channels to get it here, so yeah, not too bad, even if I'm lukewarm on the song. This will take us to our losers and dropouts, and in the latter group, it's just whatever was at the bottom for Post Malone and Travis Scott, very little of note. And when we get to our losers, yeah, still true. Might as well knock out In Your Love by Tyler Childers, seeing a dip off the debut to 55, as did Jealousy by Offset and Cardi B at 83. And you know what, while we're here, the Post Malone songs that took losses were Morning at 56 and Overdrive at 97. But again, the story here is that Travis Scott and Utopia really took their sweet time in a slow descent here. I Know at 22, Fiend with Playboy Cardi at 24, My Eyes at 44, Topia Twins with Rob 49, and 21 Savage at 46, Thank God at 64, Hyena at 70, Modern Jam with Tizo Touchdown at 71, Till Further Notice with James Blake and 21 Savage at 85, Sirens at 87, God's Country at 89, Schizo with Young Thug at 92, and Del Resto Echoes with Beyonce at 93. Now for our returns and gains. Okay, the former group is actually kind of interesting, as the stuff that's rushing into the bottom to fill the gaps, well, okay, except a Blank Space by Taylor Swift. It's back at 49 thanks to the announcement that 1989 Taylor's version is coming later this year. Apparently it's just picking up even more traction. But there are some surprises here. I'm legit stunned that Zach Bryan managed to get Oklahoma Smoke Show back at 86 and Dawn's with Maggie Rogers to 99. To say nothing of See You Again by Tyler the Creator with Kali Uchis leaping back to 94. Outside of those, Angels Don't Always Have Wings by Thomas Rhett. It's here thanks to the Nashville stimulus package at 78. You can probably say Save Me by Jelly Roll and Lainey Wilson's on the ascent at 88. And, you know, Peso Pluma got a couple of returns with Lagunas with Yaziel Nunez at 96 and Rubicon at 100. Now, as for the gains, look, it's basically a reset post-album bomb. There's 40 songs here. You know what, let's run through all of them so folks know where we're at, especially given that we got so few debuts this week and thus we got a little bit more time. So let's start with the cuts that didn't lose that much last week and saw some jumps, like Johnny Dang by That Mexican OT, Paul Wall and Drody at 79, or What It Is Block Boy by Doechii and Kodak Black at 50, or Baby Don't Hurt Me by David Guetta, Anne Marie and Coi Leray at 48, or You, Me and Whiskey by Justin Moore and Priscilla Block at 37, or Antihero by Taylor Swift at 18, or Religiously by Bailey Zimmerman at 17. I'm still stunned this is now a hit this big, my god. Now, let's consider the songs that saw gains of, 20 or more positions, which I would assume have a little bit more momentum on the Hot 100, like Watermelon Moonshine by Lainey Wilson, up big to 39, or Daylight by David Kushner at 45, or, White Horse by Chris Stapleton at 59, or Truck Bed by Hardy at 61, or Jaded by Miley Cyrus at 73. Real emotional whiplash going on here. Now for the rest. Okay, bottom up. Oh You Went by Young Thug and Drake at 84. Heartbroken by Diplo, Jesse Murph, and Polo G at 81. Memory Lane by Old Dominion at 80. Shake Something by DaBaby at 72. Everything I Love by Morgan Wallen at 69. And Popular by The Weeknd, Playboi Carti, and Madonna at 67. Then we got Super Shy by New Jeans at 66. Tulum by Peso Pluma and Grupo Frontera at 65. I Can See You by Taylor Swift at 63. Eyes Closed by Ed Sheeran at 62. And Sabor Frieza by Fuerza Regida at 60. Then we have Your Heart of Mine by John Party at 58, Peaches and Eggplants by Young Nudie and 21 Savage at 54, Lady Gaga by Peso Pluma, Gabito Ballesteros, and Junior H at 47, La La by Mike Towers at 53, and 1% by Grupo Frontera and Bad Bunny at 47. I'm guessing some of the success here is probably due to Grupo Frontera's album. That's at least plausible. Then we got Put It On The Floor Again by Lotto and Cardi B at 41, Search and Rescue by Drake at 40, La Bebe by Young Lucas and Peso Pluma at 38, Bury Me in Georgia by Kane Brown at 36, Thought You Should Know by Morgan Wallen at 34, Love You Anyway by Luke Combs at 33, Next Thing You Know by Jordan Davis at 32, Ella Bella Sola by Eslaban Armado and Peso Pluma at 31, and Dial Drunk by Noah Khan and Post Malone seeing some real momentum at 30. But finally, favorite song by 2C at 26, Cupid by 50/50 at 25, Thinking About Me by Morgan Wallen at 23, Creepin' by Metro Boomin, The Weeknd and 21 Savage at 20, and Kill Bill by SZA at 19. Alright, you got all that? Good, because we have a grand total of only 3 songs to talk about on Billboard Breakdown today, and I feel like having a short episode for once, so let's get this started with number 82, El Amor de Su Vida by Grupo Frontera and Grupo Firme. I think I may have even surprised myself when I reviewed the debut album from Grupo Frontera on my main channel. Wound up on my schedule, I thought it was pretty good, while not really being my thing, and I was generally satisfied and curious to see how much of an impact on the Hot 100 it would have. Unfortunately, this is one of the songs I didn't really care for all that much. The drums feel weirdly muffled, the groove is weirdly stodgy and slow, and while the frontmen of both groups have okay chemistry and the bass line's kind of interesting, the shaky, live-sounding production is not enough to put this among the upper tier of the album. Then there's the content. It's a barroom commiseration where this girl has moved on, they're just trying to get drunk watching from the sidelines, and I'm not sure they really make the best of their interplay here. Although, I gotta be honest, part of this might be an issue with the translations I found that didn't seem all that clear. Ironically, for as much as this being touted as a big collab, it feels very run-of-the-mill to me. It's not bad per se. I'm probably gonna struggle to remember much of this though, all I'm saying. Number 68, Good Good by Usher, Summer Walker, and 21 Savage. But that don't mean that I can't wish you better. We ain't good, but we still good. So look, it's gonna be hard for me to complain that we got a new Usher song on the Hot 100. I'm not the biggest Summer Walker fan, but 21 Savage could work with this sort of right production and vibe. I was really curious to see how this would all turn out, especially given all that buzz Usher has received recently for a really well-received Vegas residency. And with this song, okay, outside of that synth melody reminding me probably a bit too much of Lovers and Friends, and the whole mix feeling probably a little bit too compressed, especially in some of the vocal mixing, I like that post-breakup sentiment where Usher recognizes that the relationship didn't really work out, but he still got positive feelings towards her, maybe even friendship towards this ex. It's a more mature R&B sentiment that if you get older and you have any exes that wind up being friends, it's a true experience. Now, I don't think Summer Walker does the most with this, and there's a slightly defensive angle in 21 Savage's verse that felt a little contradictory to the vibe and message of the song, especially when he says he can still come over and fuck, even if that's just a joke. But the fact is that everyone here is as game as they are. It leads to a really well-constructed pop R&B song. I'm not sure I would place this close to Usher's best. You know what, I'm just happy he's back. This is fine. I'll take it. And finally, number 15, Paint the Town Red by Doja Cat.
Instead, I let all that get to my head. I don't care, I paint the town red. Bitch, I said what I said. I'd rather be famous instead. I let all that get to my head. I don't care, I paint the town red.
I've been conflicted with Doja Cat for a while now. She rakes into all the pop and R&B that she's previously released as being mainstream sellout material, and it is, but she's been fighting with her record label saying that her new material is going to be more challenging and alternative, and given that said labels are Kemosabe and RCA, I'm entirely okay with her bringing the knives out. But then we get the music, and it's this mid-tempo pop R&B cut leaning on a Dionne Warwick sample and a pretty stock snap beat that's got none of that intensity or energy. Now, the content is leaning more in that direction. A lot of flexing that she's now doing things her own way, that she's let some of the clout and success get to her head, but that's actually good. She prefers this rebellious, devilish attitude to the point where she's even slagging off some of the stands. And you know what? Fair enough. She wouldn't be the first pop star to do that. Sometimes it's deserved. But the energy on this feels a little off, and I'm not sure why. I think some of it comes down to how the sound, it doesn't reflect any rebellion at all, or even the older, wilder pop rap that she mostly set aside in the late 2010s. And it doesn't feel like there's a purpose behind the transgression outside of just the thrill of doing it. Except there's not really much of a transgression either. It's pretty safe. It's kind of ironic that I'm covering this a day after I reviewed No Name's most recent album with far more loaded and contentious lyrical transgressions, while the sound remained very accessible, and it's got that similar discordance, but there's even less bite or sense of stakes to it, especially as any call out of the labels feels very limited because you had to get that sample cleared somehow. I'm not saying this is bad. The song is remarkably catchy. I think there's a good hook here, but I absolutely understand if folks are less than impressed, especially the diehard fans. We'll have to see how well it works. But that's our week. Yes, it is a little bit shorter, but I think I've got the right to take it a bit easier every now and then. It does make picking the best and worst remarkably straightforward, though. Best is going to Good by Usher, Summer Walker, and 21 Savage. Worst is going to El Amor de su Vida by Grupo Frontera and Grupo Firme, even though that song's not that bad. Next week might actually be kind of quiet, except for some ridiculous stuff near the top 10 with Olivia Rodrigo and Oliver Anthony. We'll have to see where that's all going. But until then, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse. And I'll see you next time.